A very warm welcome back to GMT with me, Stephen Sackur. Now imagine being denied opportunities and treated unfairly simply because of the way you look. Now that is the reality for many people around the world who have a facial difference or disfigurement. And today sees the launch of a new campaign called International Face Equality Week that is designed to reduce stigma and encourage people to look beyond superficial appearances. With me is Adam Pearson, who is an actor, activist and presenter who has a genetic condition called new fibromatosis that causes tumours to form on the nerve tissue. And also I'm joined by Dr. Amanda Bates, who's from the University of Kent Centre for Health Service Studies, and she was born with a condition called amniotic band syndrome, which resulted in a cleft lip and palate. Very warm welcome to you both.
Hey.
Adam, let me start with you. Tell me a little bit more about your condition and the way, frankly, that it impacts your daily life.
So it's a genetic condition. It affects roughly 1 in every 2,500 people. Weirdly, today is actually World NF Awareness Day as well. So it just so happens it's fallen like this. And it causes tumours, as you said, to grow on nerve tissue. And in the same way that electrical cable is wrapped in plastic, your nerves are wrapped in cells called Schwann cells. And these cells grow, causing the tumours. Most of mine are on my face. I've got a little one on my hand as well.
What I find fascinating about you, just having done a tiny bit of reading, is that you have a brother who has the condition, but it expresses in a very different way.
Yeah, I have an identical twin brother called Neil. With him, he's got short-term memory loss.
So he doesn't have the
disfigurement,
disfigurement that you have in the face.
Yeah.
So in a way, you've got there within the family a way of assessing the degree to which the impacts you've faced because of the facial issues are different from the issues he's faced.
From a pure medical point of view, it's utterly fascinating.
Yeah.
Genetics in and of itself is all about kind of beauty amongst chaos and how very small variances can cause such drastic changes. I often joke amongst my friends and say, I'm the superhero no one wanted, needed or asked for, but the one they got.
But I suppose the final thought for you and your brother is, do you get the fact that you have the facial disfigurement, has that changed your life in fundamental ways that his has not been changed in?
I don't know. I don't think those kind of comparisons are helpful to make, because I'm a big fan of living the life you have as opposed to mourning the one you don't, and the whole kind of what if some comparisons, if you fall too far down that rabbit hole, the weight of that can just crush you.
Well, it's a great phrase, living the life you have. And Amanda, both as an academic and also somebody who has a personal stake in this discussion, do you feel that society, because this isn't really about you as much as in some ways it's about the reaction of society, that society still needs to think hard and learn more about disfigurement?
Absolutely. I think it's often the condition that kind of gets overlooked sometimes, which is quite contradictory in itself, because we are so often stared at in the street or can face abuse as well. And I think a lot of people, fear difference, and I think that's where it comes from.
And when we are talking about this as an equality issue, when you think about your own life, whether it be in social situations or in work, professional situations, do you think you face prejudice?
I think so. I think it's quite difficult in the way that Adam was saying, you know, I can't remove my face to see what would happen if I wasn't born this way.
Very fair point. Yeah.
So I don't have that comparison. But I do know that I've been stared at. I know that I've been asked inappropriate questions in a job interview. I know that often I went through a period in my 20s of not being able to get work. And looking back, was that discrimination?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The honest answer.
I tell you what strikes me, having just met you both as you walked into the studio, you both are very confident people in many ways, certainly outwardly with me. And you, Adam, have actually, you've done a lot of acting and you've chosen a career path which is very much in the public eye. How hard was that?
Again, as I say, it's the hand I was dealt, and much like in poker, you go all in and you bluff and you see what happens. And ironically, if I didn't have my condition and I didn't look the way I do, I wouldn't have had half the opportunities I've had. It's opened more doors than it's closed. and I've made it work. And I think no matter what happens to you, no matter how you look or what you're going through, nothing is the end of the world.
It's a really interesting message you're both bringing. What would your message be to wider society about the way we can all do better in terms of making life more equal, easier for people who have disfigurements?
I think this is very much a human rights issue. I think it's a global human rights issue. We all have the right to live, to love, to work, a right to walk down the street. And I think people just really need to show a bit of empathy, think about what it might be like to walk down a street and to feel quite stared at and quite on stage as well sometimes.
Yeah.
But I completely relate to Adam about, actually, if I wasn't born looking this way, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. I wouldn't be doing the job I'm doing. I wouldn't have done the PhD that I did. So,
but you,
for
I
me,
dare say, had to overcome quite a lot, both of you, to get here. Let us be honest.
Of course, no, and I was very badly bullied at school, for example. Yeah, and that knocked me back for many years, if I'm honest. So my self-esteem was absolutely on the floor. And it does, for me, it took a long time, and I had to really dig deep and get support with coming back from that. But now I wouldn't change anything.
Do you feel that way, Adam?
I do, and I think it's really important to remember that disability and disfigurement, whatever vernacular you want to use, isn't a mutually exclusive thing. Anyone could be involved in a fire, go flying headfirst through a car windshield, and in that moment, one of us. And in that moment, how would you want to be treated? And then pay that respect forward.
Adam and Amanda, I thank you both so much for coming into the GMT studio. It's been a real pleasure to meet you both. Thank you very much for a fascinating interview.